fans view this evening. Just check something first of all before we get started. That's fine. Let me just jump on to good old YouTube. I see who's on. Check all the people in the comments section already. Lots of chat going on already in the comments section. Yeah, lots of chat going on in the comments section. Let's say good evening to, first of all, Lorna Gallagher. Big shout out to Lorna. She's become the first channel member. Being a channel member, you do get more shout outs than anybody else. Simple as that. And you get little emojis. You get little emojis, and if you want to be a member, click the link that is at the top of this video in the chat. Anyway. Pork Chop Express is probably only get 2 overall, including the keeper. Ida, we'll talk about that in a minute. Casper, well, who knows? Casper the Ghost, probably more chance of coming in. Esther says, any news on the left back? Yeah, he was left back in Glasgow. Maybe not even Glasgow, he was probably left back at his club because Celtic didn't make a move for him. It's as simple as that, Esther. And even Baz, the hand of God, hope we're okay. Yep, she's fine. She's watching telly. Patience is the key. It's wearing thin, the same old story every year. Yes, it is. And a big shout out to hope everyone as well from Lorna. Tamax says, hail, hail. Esther, evening boys. Duncan's in, Garrison, Michael's in, Carly's in. Who really cares is in. James is in. William Martin's in. Gemma is in. How are you this evening, Gemma? Even from you and Maka. Sean's in, Peter Martin's in, Hazel, Eamon's in, Paul's in, San Fran Celtic. How are you this evening, lad? Ida played half an hour for Norwich. Yeah, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing at all because it's his first game back in training, his first game back in pre-season. All our players played one half of a game the first game back. So don't look into anything that at all. Don't look into that at all. I'm just disappointed that he's not in America because we'll get to this in a minute. We'll get some shout outs done first of all. David Bell's in from Dunfermline this evening. Fantastic part where the 7 kings of Scotland are buried. Yes, if you haven't been to Dunfermline, it's a place that you need to because there's 7 kings of Scotland buried in Dunfermline Abbey. Fantastic little day out if you haven't been to it. And if you're nationalist in any way whatsoever, you should go and see it. Anyway, Slaven's in, coming in from London. What about Brendan Williams? He's out of contract. Me and my Wayne's 31 and 29 heading game versus Chelsea. Cracking one. Patrick's in. And Liz Donnelly's in, even at news. Sean Scott's in, Kevin's in, Gerald's in. Carly, did Celtic beat Burnley 3-1? No ideas. Celtic weren't playing today. And Michael is in. Hi, Baz. Always hail, Philahor. That's a fantastic bit of the world. Lahore's a fantastic bit of the world. Right next to Blingery, where a lot of my family in Lahore, my uncle was born in Lahore. A few of my uncles were born in Lahore. In the house, I could probably show you the house in Lahore that they were born in. Back in the day. Good old mining, well, it used to be a good mining community. It's lost all its community now, isn't it? I mean, Blingery and Lahore and all the villages had right close knit communities back in the 80s. They kind of lost it in the 90s, 2000s. But anyway, we move on with the Celtic news. As they're saying that no news is good news. Well, no news is good news. Has the PLC let Brendan Rodgers down? Has the PLC? That's my question to you tonight. If you remember, after the game against Scott Brown's team, Brendan Rodgers was asked the question about incoming players. He was asked specifically about Paulo Bernardo. He was asked explicitly about Adam Ida. And his response was, look, Adam's a player that's with another club, so I'm not going to talk about players that are at other clubs. But I do fully expect to have 2 new players before we board the flight to America. we have one new player that boarded the flight to America. One new player that we got for £1 million that has boarded the flight to America. He's our number 12. He's our goalkeeper, and he was pictured in training today, along with our other goalkeeper that's in America. There is no sign of Benji Siegrist, thankfully. There is no sign of Benji Siegrist in America as yet. I don't know if he made the flight. Mikey Johnston's there. The one and only Jamesy Forrest. Are we going to go into the new season with our wide men being James Forrest and Mikey Johnston? A blast for the past. This is brilliant, isn't it? No, got cheeseburger in my mouth, though. Callum McGregor pictured in America. Liam Scales, Jamesy Forrest in training. Obviously, Kyogo, Mikey Johnson, Louis Palma, and then our number 12 goalkeeper. Yes, our number 12. Scott Bain isn't even that high up in the pecking order. And then you've got our Japanese boys, Daisen and Ryo Hatate. Important players for them. And then there's a single shot of Scott Bain. And there's one with Welsh in the background of Kyogo. Single one of Rio. And then there's one of Nico Kuhn and Odom Ohm with Callum McGregor. And there's a young boy in the back of that one. I'm not sure who that is. Another one with Callum McGregor. But anyway, has the Celtic board let Brendan down so far? And I'm going to say why I think they have. And let's get some of the comments first. A couple of folk coming in from Derry. Comments are flying in. Let me just get back to where I was. Ryan, yeah, I think, I'm drinking the Seven Kings. David, the Seven Kings, a cracking pub. I used to drink there as well when I stayed in Dunfermline many moons ago, about 2010. I was playing. Either could turn into John McGinn's situation. The board need to get the money paid over. We're arguing over 1.5 million. I don't think we're arguing over the money at all. I think I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But then Gareth Williams says yes, big time. Mark says yes. The Jam Tarts pumped by Spurs tonight, 4-1. Oh, you would expect that. Interesting one that Ange Postecoglou has been linked with the manager's job of England. Still a bit early to call, but trust Brendan and not the board. Tim will tell who failed who. As it stands just now, I think that the board have let Brendan Rodgers down big time. He expected 2 new players to be on the plane going to America. And everyone surmised that it would be Adam Ida and Paulo Bernardo. None of those players have even signed for Celtic yet. This evening, Adam Ida played his first half of pre-season to then come off at half-time for Norwich City. Norwich do not want to sell the player. Did Celtic go to Norwich early enough and ask if, 1, it was for sale, 2, what's the price? It's as simple as that. That's the way that the conversation goes. And that conversation for me should have happened at the end of May. It should have happened at the end of May. It hasn't. It seems to have taken into the middle of July until any decent conversation has went on between the clubs. Well, the start of July anyway. And we know players and that can be on holiday, but conversations between clubs can happen before the player's even involved. Because let's face it, then it's up to the club if they want to allow permission for the player to then speak to the club that wants to buy him. If Celtic knew 2 weeks ago that Norwich don't want to play ball with Adam Ida, who have they got in backup? Brendan Rodgers had to have sat down at the end of the season. He had to have sat down at the end of the season and said, if we don't get Adam Ida, this is my number 2 choice. And if we don't get the number 2 choice, this is the number 3 choice. That's the way that Ange Postecoglou worked. And it works quite well because it made you move on quickly. And we all know that Adam Ida wants to come back to Celtic. But if the Norwich, who have him on a lengthy contract, don't want to play ball, Is it the fact that Celtic are humping their horn about this money situation again? Similar to what they've done with Paulo Bernardo. Celtic had an obligation to buy, an option to buy, should I say. They had an option to buy for £6 million. Celtic managed to get them down to 3.5 million, allegedly. It's not been sealed yet. It's not been done and dusted. I think the fact that the board are pissing about again. The board are doing what the board do. And I think that is letting Brendan Rodgers down big style. It's as simple as that. They are letting Brendan Rodgers down. Will that have any influence on on next season and how Brendan Rodgers works? No, it won't. And Brendan Rodgers will still know he has a job to do and he'll get on with it professionally. And he'll stick. And I don't even go down the road in this nonsense that Brendan Rodgers will walk in this current situation. He won't. He's got a vision that he wants to build for the club and a legacy that he wants to leave. He's in the process of building that legacy, bringing in a younger keeper that's going to work under an experienced keeper. I've seen Scottish media talking about the fact that, oh my God, they're bringing in a keeper that was the same age as Joe Hart. How fucking good was Joe Hart though? We're bringing in another top class keeper. Scottish media can't help but bring Celtic down on every opportunity. But the Celtic board do themselves no favours whatsoever. They do themselves no favours whatsoever. Celtic fans and fans media are embarrassing themselves because you have no contact and they're just making stuff up. Yeah, Celtic media, of course, Celtic fan media are just making stuff up. Nobody has contacts in Celtic. The ones that go, no, they do have contacts in Celtic, right? But they don't ask the questions. I don't think anybody's leaking any information out of Celtic. You've got all these guys that go to the press conferences. They're bound to have somebody on the know, surely. And if they're not, I mean, don't even get me started, because I've seen one of them talking about a fucking Martin O'Neill story that was in the Daily Record. And you're like, you've just rewritten that in your own words and put it out as your own article, but it was a Daily Record article. Anyway. Right, let me jump back into some of the comments. Stop all this doom and gloom and wait till the end of the window and then you can rant all you want. David, everyone should be asking the same question. Brendan Rodgers stood after the Queen's Park game, right? That was after the Queen's Park game, wasn't it? Yeah, it was after the Queen's Park game. He stood and he was on Sky Television and Sky interviewed him and asked, what's the situation with Adam Ida and Paulo Bernardo? And do you expect to have any players before you travel to America? And Brendan Rodgers said, yes, that is the plan. That was Brendan Rodgers' words. So this is not a rant. This is actual factual things that have happened. So I'm not making this up. This is Brendan Rodgers said it. He said that in his eyes, he said that's the plan, to have at least 2 players in before they travel to America. Now they haven't at all. So that's not making stuff up. It's not being doom and gloom. It's just stating the facts and stating the obvious. That the PLC are dragging their feet once again, and I think that up until now, they have let Brendan Rodgers down. I think we could have been further along the transfer window with what we are, but we're not. The board are dilly-dallying about cash again. Anyway, everyone's to calm down, says Carly. You know why Rangers radio bailed out the night? They are bailing. I have no idea. Apart from Angie's first season, every window I can remember has gone down the usual penny pinching route, resulting in players like John McGinn going elsewhere. Well, that's going a long further back than Ange with John McGinn, isn't it? But maybe they just haven't announced it yet. I don't think announced who though. Do you know announced who? Adam Ida is not signing for Celtic today or tomorrow. He got on a flight and he's away at the training camp with Norwich. Maybe we're going to sign a player from the MLS. Let's hopefully not, because those players haven't been the greatest in Scottish football. And you're wanting players that have Champions League-ish experience. That's what we all wanted. Let's stop dumbing down the ambitions that we had only 3 or 4 weeks ago. We all wanted players that could come in and could compete in the Champions League. An MLS player is not going to come in unless he's top level and compete in the Champions League. Hail from Los Angeles. Looking forward to seeing the Chelsea game at the Notre Dame Stadium, says Carol Lenny. Big shout out to Carol. Thank you for joining the channel. Trying to stay optimistic, Baz. I am trying to stay optimistic. And, I mean, pleased with Schmeichel, though. If it's done, I'm starting to even doubt if that's even done yet. Anyway, Scenery says, we've always stopped panicking, everything will come good. I do think it will come good, but it was just an honest question. Brendan Rodgers wanted 2 players in before the window. That was in Brendan Rodgers' own word. And we get in a young goalkeeper that's going to be number 2. That's hardly setting the light on Heather on fire, is it? That's hardly getting the fans excited. Alistair Johnson came from MLS today. Well, there you go. There you go. I thought he played in Canada, they don't. He played in Canada. Anyway, Big Dom says, with 150 million in the bank, why are we haggling? I've no idea. No idea. The Cartell's chance of them doing anything meaningful. Oh, geez, the board are dragging their heels. It's embarrassing, says Christopher. Right, let's see what other Celtic headlines are out there that are absolutely hilarious by the Celtic media that's out there. Confusing Adam Ida moment during the Norwich City friendly. Brendan Rodgers' transfer pool has already reared its head this week. Adam Ida, Norwich City edition cut short. Ex-Celtic boss Ange Postecoglou emerges as target of England job. Martin O'Neill explains how long it really took him to leave Leicester to join Celtic. That's the story that was in the paper. 7 USA training football observations. Sinisalo number points to Schmeichel number 1 role because Sinisalo's number 12. And you see number 12 on his shirt. But anyway, there's not a lot of crap going around, and there's nothing even on Twitter. Nothing even on Twitter. Usually you go on Twitter and you can get some kind of sniff of something happening. Schmeichel passes medical in Italy. So he was in Italy. Why was he in Italy doing his medical? That's a strange one. Kasper Schmeichel, it's been said, has passed his medical in Italy and will sign an agreement that will make him Celtic's first choice goalkeeper. Replacing Joe Hart, the Denmark international, will complete the paperwork before heading to Washington to join his new teammates, according to Danish outlet Tisbladet. Kasper just needs now to sign the contract before the new first team keeper signs for Celtic. So, it is, what day is it even? It's Wednesday, isn't it? It's Wednesday, and that's him just doing his medical today. So, if he flies to Glasgow tomorrow, signs the contract, and then flies out to America to meet up with the team. We've signed 2 goalkeepers. I'm not going to get overly excited. I mean, I get why we're getting Schmeichel, and I'm not dissing it. I think getting Schmeichel in is an absolutely fantastic. Schmeichel loves pasta. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh dear. Oh, that's unbelievable. Long way to go. He'll be on holiday, says who really cares. I'm not going to the superstore tomorrow to give somebody money to my club. Carly's going to the superstore. I'll be getting Celtic merchandise in a couple of weeks also, so it's not going to stop me buying Celtic merchandise. ML's team's one comes from Canada as well. This is one of the comments. So I get the whole Schmeichel thing, and I get bringing him in, an experienced keeper, putting us in safe hands with the Champions League. I think it was always a bit of a risk bringing in another keeper that Brendan hadn't worked with before and expecting him to do really well when it comes to the Champions League. Schmeichel's done it. He's been at that level before. You can understand why he's brought him in. He wants to make sure that the continuation of the goalkeeper is from within Celtic. So they signed this young guy, the young French goalkeeper, Sinisalo, and he is going to be the number 1 in a year's time. He knows he's going to get some game time during the season, but he knows ultimately he's going to be the Celtic number one. So he's going to be training with Schmeichel day in, day out. There is no better education, football education for a player. I mean, what Celtic have basically done is hire the goalkeeper and hire the top-class goalkeeping coach with a bag full of experience at the top level to train a player for a year. For me, I think it's brilliant. But it's not what we expected heading off to America. It's not what we expected. We expected some outfield players brought in. We still have not got any outfield players brought in. We're days away from our next game, our first game in America. And then we've got two pre-season games after that. We've still no outfield players. If you want a team to gel, you get them to gel during pre-season. If you want players in and coached on the tactics of the season ahead, you get them in pre-season and you work on them. And you work them hard for that pre-season. You work on the tactics. You work on formations. Things like that. Bringing a player in the week before or even 2 weeks into the Premier League is what's going to happen at Celtic once again. We're going to start the season and then we're going to bring in players in it and it's going to look like panic buys. It's going to look like panic buys once again from Celtic. Patience is a virtue, Carly. It is a virtue. But I just think that the board could and should have done a lot better than what they have. And it's only going by what Brendan Rodgers said at the Queen's Park game. He said, I want to have 2 players in before we go to the States, before we go on that tour. Minimum of 2 players, and it hasn't happened. Anyway, that is that. Let's jump back into San Fran. Celtic says Schmeichel loves pasta. Gareth says they know what they will never change. I don't think Celtic will change. Celtic will never change. It's always the same with signings. Dragging its heels. Yep. Celtic. It's a clever move getting in 2 keepers. Quality Casper. Be a bonus for the other guy for experience. Exactly, Cereris. Exactly. I think that move alone. If we didn't need so many outfield players, and we had a solid team, and if the manager went into the end of the season convinced that the team that they had and the players that we had in the background, and the players that they brought in previous season, if he thought that they were the quality, because remember, Brendan Rodgers said that word a lot last year. He said we're going to be looking at quality over quantity, and that's something that we thought we were going to bring in this summer. We haven't done it as yet, and I think that's why the board have let Brendan Rodgers down up until now. I'm not saying that they'll let him down altogether. I think up until we went to America, you want to get these guys in. You want to get the majority of your squad in. Brendan Rodgers said it himself. He said pre-season is a time where you get to work on the players a lot more. Brendan said, think back to last season when Brendan came in, and all he spoke about every single press conference was how he was talking to the players, getting to know the players, getting in the mindset of the players, knowing exactly what the football ambition of the players were, so that he knew everything about the players inside out. You can only do that during pre-season when you're not focusing on tactics for a game and how the other team plays and worrying about, can we play this guy on this pitch? Can we play this formation against this team? Brendan Rodgers spoke about that last season. He's not been speaking about that this season. He's been speaking about, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about Adam Ida because he's a player from another club and he's contracted to the other club. To me, he knows in the background that the Adam Ida deal might not happen. Be prepared to be let down by the board and the Adam Ida deal doesn't happen. And if it does, it's probably going to be the final day of the transfer window where Celtic go, there you go, there's your 6 million. And if they'd just done that at the beginning of the transfer window, we would not be having this conversation tonight. And that's why we're having the conversation, because Celtic, once again, are dilly-dallying as far as the transfer market is concerned. Casper has disappeared like a ghost. Sinisalo is a great up-and-coming goalkeeper. Yes, I think he is, and great investment for the future. You're absolutely... Roll me one Kenobi. Roll me one Kenobi. You're absolutely right. Listen, if we had went into the transfer window saying we needed 2 keepers, which we did, I think we'd have been happy. Every Celtic fan would be right, that's it. Summer's done. Fantastic window. We get Joe Hart retires, we bring in Schmeichel, who's is equal or not better than Joe Hart. Some people will say that he was better than Joe Hart. We'll see what happens this season. You then bring in a younger 22-year-old goalkeeper that is going to take over from him. Benji Siegrist hasn't travelled, by the looks of it, to America. So Benji Siegrist is on his way out of the club. We all know that. Scott Bain's there. Scott Bain knows that he's always going to be backup keeper. He knows that. He knows he's never going to be number one. And he knows he's never going to be long-term number one either. But how will Scott Bain feel being number 3 for a season and not being on the bench at all? Anyway, let's jump back into the comments. Big shout out to Lorna. Good things come to those who wait, hopefully. Yes, and a big shout and thank you to Lorna Gallagher, who is the first channel member. Did Ida play good for Norwich tonight? No idea. I was at the beach. And I'm not kidding. I was literally at the beach, sitting at a bar right next to the beach, watching this sunset. So I've no idea. Tom Mack says, I think this Ibrox Steel thing is all a hoax. They want more practice at Hampden because it has been Celtic. I beat them. Yep. It's who failed a medical. Does the running machine go past 37? I've no idea. I'll tell you that. I've no idea. Adam isn't happening, and doubt Bernardo is either. The bomb. I think the Paulo Bernardo one will happen. I have serious doubts. If the Adam either one does, it'll be a deadline transfer day situation. And it'll be because Brendan Rodgers is adamant he wants Adam Ida. And I think that he doesn't want all the shite that he's been offered before by the club. And it tells you a lot what's going on in the background. So then the next question would be, and that's a question for another video, is there a power struggle going on in the background of Celtic? Is Lawwell sticking his mucky hands in where they shouldn't be? Has Peter Lawwell said, keep that big fat motherfucker away from me and get the players I want? And anyway, on that note, have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans all around the world. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We have been on for 27 minutes. 15 million. I'm guessing the games are the best. These guessing games are the best. Move on from Ida, says Gareth. I think we should be prepared to move on. Another deadline loan. Don't say that. Don't say that. Of course he is. How much are you putting on a treble this year? I'm not a betting man, Norman, but if I was, I'd probably stick about 100 quid on it. I'd stick 100 quid if I was a betting man, but I'm not a betting man. Tell Norwich to stick their 15 million. They don't want 15 million for Adam either. Surely not. That is just a piss take. Absolute piss take. Anyway, cheers everyone. Thanks for a good night, says Lorna the Star. And if you'll notice, Lorna has a nice little emoji that she could post. I'm sure she can post another emoji. There is other emojis that you can post up. Enjoy your evening to the lot of yous. That's me, done and dusted. Have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans all around the world.